Well, hey, welcome back to Entrepreneur Encounters. I'm Brent F. Wass. I'm an entrepreneur coach and business catalyst. My goal here through this program is to help you find some ways to be able to grow your profit and accelerate your business. So you're going to love our continuing series here as we're diving into the importance of understanding your digital marketing and digital media strategy. And the guest that we have today is fantastic. And I think you're going to learn a lot from her and the business she's founded. So we're with Kiley Peters today, the founder and CEO of Brainchild Studios. I first had the privilege of meeting Kiley at a speed mentoring forum. And from there, I've just been able to have several conversations with her and been honored to attend a lot of her workshops. So without further ado, Kiley, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Brent. Thanks for that throwback. I forgot how we first met, but that's like kind of funny, just how life happens.
I know. It's like you just tell people like we go way back. Now we're pre-pandemic. That's how long we've known.
Yeah. Oh, I know. And that's a whole different lifetime, right?
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your business, please.
Yeah. Well, I am the founder and CEO of Brainchild Studios, and we are an international award-winning research and digital content strategy partner for small business owners and mid-market executives. I also founded Rain 9, an executive coaching and consulting practice, earlier this year as well. But Brainchild, we just celebrated 5 years in September, which is a pretty exciting milestone. And we're really proud of, yeah, I know, right? We're really proud of the team that we've built and the work that we've done, and are really excited for how we're kind of productizing our services and the way that we're positioning things moving forward.
Oh, that's super. Why did you want to become an entrepreneur? Why take that journey?
Well, I have a love-hate relationship with time. And, we all know that you spend so much of your life at work, and I really wanted to own my own time. I didn't like the idea of having to ask someone for permission to live my life, live in the time that I have. So, I kind of took that upon myself. And I'm a big fan of creating your own opportunities. And so as I'm, fairly self-diagnosed ambitious human, I wanted to create those opportunities for myself to have ultimate flexibility to pursue the things that mattered most to me. And hopefully along the way, also create some opportunities for other people to be able to build flexible work-life schedules, build strong families, and then continue to pursue personal growth.
That's amazing. Can you walk us through your journey? I mean, 5 years is amazing. And I'm sure you started before the 5 years even. So can you walk us through the journey of what it took to get into business?
Yeah, I think it's a lifetime. I think I was an entrepreneur before I knew what that word meant. I actually remember exactly when I learned what that word meant. I was in like the hall of a house party in college, speaking to a woman my age who actually had started her own business. And she's like, I'm an entrepreneur. And I was like, that's cool. What does that mean? And then foreshadowing, my very first job out of college was at what was called the San Diego State University Entrepreneurial Management Center. And who would have thought that I would become an entrepreneur myself? But yeah, I think it's evolved. I have been creating and selling things maybe my whole life. Like my mom was always like, let's create this thing and then let's sell it. And I didn't realize that was the budding start of entrepreneurship. But I did start freelancing, doing graphic design freelance work when I was 18. So that started pretty young for me. I had some of my first clients when I was in college, and then built my career in digital marketing and kind of moved out to San Diego. Spent a lot of time, the better part of a decade, in Chicago, and I had the benefit of having a lot of different experiences. So I very intentionally continued to make moves so I could accumulate those experiences, and kind of just came to a point at one point when I was like, I think there might be a better way to do this. And I think I would like there to be a better way to do this. And kind of just took it upon myself to start Brainchild. Again, I'd moved around and collected do's and don'ts from a lot of different places. And so Brainchild started in September of 2016. And it started in my 1-bedroom apartment in Chicago in the space between my refrigerator and the wall where my 2 foot wide standing desk could sit, or stand rather. And I just kind of like became a hermit in that little corner for a very long time. And then moved to Milwaukee at the end of 2017, and have proudly called this home for the last four-ish years, and worked on really building our company. And this is not for the lighthearted, or this is not for the thin-skinned, if you will. Like, this is a tough journey. And I think one of the best metaphors that I've heard for entrepreneurship is it's like a roller coaster. Like, the highs are so high and you're like, this is amazing, this is my life calling. And the lows are so low that you question everything. And so I think at the end of the day, you have to just put your hands up and be along for the ride. But in my process, as I've come across a number of like very talented people and also small business owners, I really just want to help these other small business owners continue to succeed, because it can be a very lonely place, and there's very few people who really understand what you're going through. So I personally really want to take the businesses I've now started and try to give back a little bit and help other small business owners, and also root very deeply into research and people. So that's one thing that Brainchild's leaning heavily into, and leveraging research to support our strategies and using that to help productize our services. So that's where we've come from. That's where we're going, as a productization of services. And trying to help the people that we care about the most.
Wow. Hey, thanks for that. And I appreciate you talking about those ups and downs of entrepreneurship, because it's so true.
Yeah.
And it's not for the faint of heart, and you do have to have some thick skin in order to endure. So tell us about your passion. Tell us about your passion that I think helps you get fired up specifically for Brainchild.
Oh man. I really just want to, I focus on the people, honestly. Like, that's always been my driving factor, is people matter most. And for me, I really wanted to create an environment that myself as a woman, could build the future I dreamt for myself and my someday family. And I wanted to create that for other women too. And while we are still a small shop, I'm very proud of the fact that the work we do allows the women that work for us, and all team members, but they're mostly women, to have flexible work-life structures and build and be able to own their time. So I get excited about trying to impact the lives of others. I get excited about nerding out on research and insights and optimizing automations and workflow processes. I get nerded out and excited about just asking more and learning more, and curiosity. I think we talked just briefly about curiosity and continuing to learn. I think that when you stop learning, or you stop embracing that sense of curiosity, you not only just stop, you start to move backwards quite actively, whether you think you believe it or not. So right now, I get really excited about our team. I'm really excited about watching them grow. I think that the best thing I can do for myself and for the team is to work to replace myself and make myself not needed. I think that's the greatest challenge for me right now, is like, all right, let's see where we can take this, and be able to provide that opportunity for the team at large.
Now, Kiley, you mentioned a focus on women in particular, and I know that your business model has sort of niched down. Talk a little more about that, and why, and maybe even the process of where you decided to narrow your focus. Because if I think there's one major faux pas that a lot of entrepreneurs make, is that everyone is my customer, right? Doesn't everyone need my services? So tell me about why you narrowed down, and importantly, how you decided to narrow down.
Yeah. Well, I think you can go about it a lot of different ways, right? But I'm a personal believer that you need to do, especially if you're running your own business, right? It needs to serve you. You need to first figure out what matters most to you as a person, and then figure out how your business can help you serve that. And whether those are your personal values, which I highly recommend, or like your personal goals, your business should be serving you. So for me, I personally feel very strongly about gender equality. I personally have goals to help as many women and women small business owners as possible. So those are my personal goals, right? That's what I really want to do. And as I looked at, when Brainchild started 5 years ago, now we're in and hopefully seeing the other side of COVID, where remote work is now widely accepted. But 5 years ago, it wasn't necessarily the case. And I looked at this as, to do the work that I'm doing, I need a laptop and a Wi-Fi connection. I don't need 2 hours commuting to a 9 to 5. I don't need to worry about what I look like, because that shouldn't matter. I shouldn't be spending my time trying to like buy the most fashionable clothing and like, that's all well and good. If that's your thing, that's your thing. That's great. But there were just other ways that I wanted to spend my time. And I also wanted the flexibility to be able to work from anywhere. And because I like to travel. So I wanted to create that opportunity to create a remote workspace that was also very supportive to women, especially moms who need that flexibility. Like the 9 to 5 was not built for the working mom. It just wasn't. And I hope that we're seeing the other side of that. But there's just a lot you can do when you have a flexible work-life structure. And so that was a big thing for us. That was our business model from the very beginning, is this flexible work-life structure. And in terms of finding our target audience niche, again, wanted to make sure that that aligned with my personal values of helping women, and specifically helping women small business owners, not only because that's not as inclusive as we would like it to be, but in the name of, if you try to help everybody, you're probably not going to help anybody. Really focusing down, and for the last few years, we've really been focusing on brands targeting millennial moms, because in the name of do what you know, a lot of us are millennials and a lot of us are moms. So in the name of authenticity and alignment, that has made a lot of sense. And we've done research on that audience for the last few years. And what we realized is, in doing that for ourselves, we're able to open up those opportunities for our clients, which could potentially include brands that don't necessarily target millennial moms. But you may or may not be surprised how many brands actually do target millennial moms, whether they realize it or not, because the buying power is insane and they're always making those decisions. So it is actually quite relevant to so many different brands. But yeah, in the name of do what you know, do the things that align with your values, and also make sure that there's a demand. Like, it's all well and good if you like cactus farming, but if nobody wants to buy anything having to do with cactus farming, then like, I think that's what we call a hobby, So there has to be like a commerce part that is the other half of this.
So probably in your research of millennial moms, cactus farming didn't show up super high, particularly here in the Midwest.
Not like a top result. I'm sure it's in there somewhere, but definitely not a highlight.
Fair enough. Didn't make the top 5 for Family Feud. So how did you go about identifying the problem that you wanted to address? And again, I just firmly believe that people buy because we're solving a problem for them, and that's why they want to engage with us and buy our products. So how did you identify the problem you wanted to solve?
Yeah. Well, I will openly admit, like, it took us a minute. We had a lot of trial and error, but ultimately we asked. We are walking our walk and practicing what we preach, and we have done our own research on our target audience, and we've asked them what problems they're trying to solve. And in doing that, we've uncovered, like, generally speaking, they're trying to save time and save money. They're busy people, and they're trying to increase workflow efficiencies and save time and money. But we've also found that while there might be some cheaper solutions to save time and money, they're typically short-term solutions. And if you don't take the time to root down into actually understanding the root of your problem, which in most cases is that businesses don't actually understand their target audience. They think they know, or they think they're their target audience, or they make all these assumptions, or they use second-party data that's not necessarily targeted towards their exact audience. There's a whole lot of missed opportunities. And so in the name of saving time and saving money, understanding your target audience and creating a strategy that's rooted in a deep understanding of that target audience is the most efficient and effective way that you can save time and make more money. So, in the name of practice what you preach and ask people what problems they're trying to solve, that's exactly what we did. And then we found long-term solutions that can help to solve the root of the problem versus just like a band-aid solution.
So make that investment up front as much as you can. It's not going to be perfect. I think you said it took a little bit of time, so there were some
Yeah.
iterations, but make that investment up front to really ask your potential customers, or those you think you might be your potential customers, where they're at, what their pain points are, where they're struggling with, and make sure your solution fits. I love that.
And I would just add to that too, is like, it's fine to create your own hypothesis of like, this is what I anticipate this is going to look like. That's fine. Just make sure that it doesn't bias your questions, it doesn't bias your analysis of those results. Because if you're going to do research to build a strategy and build a business that's based off of research, believe in the research, otherwise don't do it. So go into it with an open mind, because you'll be surprised what people say. People always say like, oh, when people tell you who they are, you should believe them. Well, when you ask your audience what their problems are, you should believe them too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's just a great book for those who are looking for a book, The Mom Test, since we were talking about moms.
Yeah.
The Mom Test is a great resource for understanding how to frame the questions and trying to avoid the confirmation bias that can come with like, isn't my service awesome? Like, don't you want to buy it? Well, you're setting people up to basically say yes there. So ask the ones that are really going to get at their pain point so that you can be most successful at solving that, because you're probably going to get the most money that way. How have you adapted your business along the way? We've had a lot of stuff go on, and you're in a space constantly doing research and constantly evolving. So how have you adapted along the way?
Yeah, so our business model has stayed pretty consistent. When I first started, my goal was to always build a company that was based off of contractors who were experts in their area of specialty. And as we've grown the business and earned the right to bring on employees, we have done so. And so for our like core offerings, et cetera, we have a lot of employees that support that. But for any like tangential things where a contractor just makes the most sense, that's still our model. But in terms of adapting the business in just the business, like, yeah, man, there's been a lot of pivots, a lot of twists and turns. We started initially as I wanted to just build websites and launch them and then like be done. And then I very quickly realized that was a terrible idea, because no website should ever be launched without a website maintenance program in place, because they're living, breathing things. And with whether or not somebody's going to pay you to maintain it, they're going to come back to you with questions. So I was like, oh yeah, I should put into place a website maintenance program. Oh, okay, great. Okay, now we have like additional clients that are building up over time, right? And then it was like, oh, okay, well, project-based work is a little difficult to project cash flow. So we should create more retainer-based service offerings that can help to stabilize cash flow and make it a little bit easier. And then I was like, oh, wait, that's too many things. We're doing too many things. We have to stop, because like we can't do the quality of work that we want to do. And so then it was like reeling those in. And then it was refining our target audience. And like, okay, we worked very closely with brands targeting millennial moms for a number of years. And then it was like, oh, wait, but the work that we're doing for those brands is long form content creation and research. Oh, well, what if we just flip that on its head and we focus on the research that informs long form content strategy and creation? Oh, okay, well, that feels good. So it's like, okay, here we go. Like, I don't know, I don't think I've ever solved a Rubik's Cube, but it kind of feels like that a little bit. Like, oh yeah, that works. Okay, now this one. Okay, here we go. So yeah, it's an evolving process. And I think that's not uncommon for many small businesses. I have a friend who owns a franchise-based marketing agency, and she's killing it. And I was like, wow, congratulations, that's great. She's like, it took us a while to get here. Just be patient with the process.
Yeah, I think trust the process. The the idea that we're going to start with one idea. If we stop thinking, just like before the show, we were talking about the idea of an expert. If you think you know everything, that's when you're starting to fall off. I think if you think your business has arrived and you're done evolving, changing, growing, getting better, because your customers' problems are shifting, they're changing. You identified in the example you gave, first you identify, well, we need a website. You already knew in advance. They're going to come back and ask, okay, 6 months later, I got this question. I want to do this update, this new, I noticed some other people doing on their website this thing. Can I do that, et cetera, et cetera. So those problems evolve. And if our businesses aren't evolving, we're missing out, whether that means the type of products that you keep in mind or keep in stock, the type of services that you want to offer, how you're delivering those services, being able to figure out how to do remote pickup. There's a lot of different things that always show up that are always going to need us to iterate. So what were some obstacles and some hurdles that popped up in your way that you can think of that might be helpful for people to kind of learn how you overcame them and how you kept moving forward?
Man, obstacles. I think a lot of it is like just reinventing. I would recommend that as much as possible, as soon as it makes sense, to standardize your operating procedures, which is sometimes a moving target if you are still working on like what it is you're selling. But I think that has continued to be an obstacle. And right now we're in the process of like really refining our automation workflow so that we can free up people's time in a bigger way to be more impactful with the work that they do. That's continued to be a challenge, is just making sure that people are being efficient with their time.
Can we dive into that a little bit? Because I think if there's one item that entrepreneurs can never get back, it's time. And it's sometimes,
I know.
Right. And it seems so frustrating that we're like, what did I do today? Like I had a goal, I had a thought, I knew what I was planning to do. So you're talking about some automation, some tools. Are you willing to share some of the tools that you're putting into use? Because I really think there's a lot of places where, boy, if entrepreneurs could figure out how to pick up an extra hour and change a day, and believe it or not, it's probably there, but the automations and those workflows would really help.
Yeah. Well, I haven't quite figured it out yet, but I will throw out a few things that I'm playing with. One, this is probably no surprise, but like if you're not utilizing Zapier, check it out, because the automation workflow capabilities that Zapier has are pretty advanced. We're trying to utilize technology in as many ways as possible. So we utilize Quiller as our SOW software, and then we have automation set up that once that gets signed, it gets kicked out to the next step. And then we've got a couple of different workflow automations in place there. We also, I'm also looking into batching. So I just finished reading this book called The Art of Doing Less by Ari Meisel. I hope I'm saying his name right. But I've got all kinds of ideas. Like literally, this is what I'm doing for the next 2 weeks. Is I'm asking of myself and of my team, what are all the things that you do that are repetitive and could be delegated or automated? And looking into putting a solution into place that allows us to automate as much as possible, not to lose the personal touch, but just for the things that, like, if a robot can do this, then a robot should do this. Like, not a critical thinking human. Let technology support us. I will say, like, this is a small thing, but like the biggest thing that I implemented this year, which is embarrassing that I just implemented this year, is Calendly. Like, for entrepreneurs who are booking meetings all the time, if you are not using a calendar booking system that you give somebody a link and you set up the infrastructure ahead of time for the type of meeting, and then you can automate follow-up emails, and you can automate like pre-emails, and like all these things you can do, like payments, checkouts through them, and all the things. That has been the number one thing I've set up that has just changed everything. But again, going back to processes and automations, whether that's through a technology source or it's just a process that you have documented and are actually acting upon internally, that alone has changed so much. And I think for me as an entrepreneur, I think one of the things my team struggles with sometimes is that there's still so much in my head that I have done a poor job of getting out. And so that's something I'm actively working on. And what I've realized is that when you take that time to try to brain dump and do so in a constructive, semi-organized way to your team, like trust them that they can take it. Like check back in, check back in. How's it going? Do you have any questions? But trust them that they can take it, because I will say that now we've gotten to the point where like we'll have a new SOW that gets signed. And before I've even seen the email that it got signed, we've got like things kicked off and Asana tasks in place. Oh, Asana is the project management system that we use and we love it. It connects to a lot of things. It doesn't connect to everything, but it connects to a lot of things. But yeah, we utilize Asana, Slack, Gmail, Google for Business, Google Workplace. We're using Keep right now as a CRM. I don't know how long that's going to stay around though. And Quiller for our SOWs. So
yeah, I mean, I think what I'm hearing on a theme is that find those tasks. So like in the example of scheduling a meeting, it's Kiley, what's your schedule like? Oh, I'm available on these 4 dates. Oh, well, and by the time I get your message and respond to you, you've already booked another appointment because you have to tell 5 people those same dates. All that stuff, it's a little bit of setup in advance. It's actually not much. There are a variety of different systems. There are many that are free or have a free version of them. I think another one is automations on email. If you're running any type of mail serve program, when people sign up or subscribe or whatever, probably an initial, hey, thanks for signing up type email can be there, and even an automation behind it. Depends on the personal touch you want to have, but know that every time you add personal touch, make it thoughtful. I like what you said, critical thinking human beings. Make it a critical thinking touch point where you want the personal touch, and let the general information, hey, here's the hours, here's the email for our service department if you have a question. That probably doesn't need to be a personal touch item. Personally welcoming you to signing up for a 6-month contract on something or other, that's probably pick up the phone or go visit them in person.
Yeah, I would just think through the process and think through what it feels like on the other end of that. Like we all know that emails are automated. Okay, most people are like, yep, I get it. That's not a big deal. But when like the wrong emails are automated, it feels like you've been slighted. So just be mindful of what that user journey looks like. But yeah, there's just so many things, and especially if you've got, depending on what it is that you sell, having those milestones and having triggers tied to those things that will set up the next thing into action. This book, that The Art of Doing Less, they talk about Zapier, but they also talked about which I have not looked into yet, but ITTF. It stands for like if this then that. Whatever that breaks down to, if this then that.com, I think, is like a cheaper, more rudimentary version of Zapier. But I mean, he talks about how he's automated his entire business by like, I put this thing in Dropbox and then bloop, magic happens. And I'm like, yeah, okay, how are you gonna do that? That's my goal in the next couple of weeks.
Well, and I think those are the things, and the advice I give to folks is don't try and get to 100% right away. There, you could probably get lost searching Zapier's list of integrations that you can do, and a variety of other tools, and analyzing 15 different calendar organizers. Spend maybe an hour doing limited research. Talk to 3 other people because chances are someone else is using them. Pick one, pick the free trial, try it out, get a sense, and you can always build and change later. But gosh, don't keep burning that 1 hour you invest up front. I think will come back to you in about a week or 2 many times. So definitely do that. Kiley, you've got a lot of stuff that goes on. You mentioned you do research. How else do you stay on top of your industry? Because there's a lot to stay in touch with customers and where they're going and what's available to them.
Yeah, I think it's that element of always staying curious. Yes, we do research. We research our industry. We research our target audience. But also depending on the role that each of my team members has, like they're all responsible for being up to date on all of the latest Google algorithm changes or the email privacy policies that change on a regular basis, or like cookie updates from the websites, etc. But for me personally, I really like to read. I ask a lot of questions of everybody. You can ask my accountant. I have like a million tax questions for her. But I really just try to consume as much as I can. But then I think the other half of that is not just staying curious and consuming content. So whether that's online courses, books, audiobooks, podcasts, blogs, you name it, I just like to consume things. But I think it's also then carving out time to reflect on what you learned and how those you could connect those dots, like do something about it. Like it does no good if it comes in one ear and goes out the other kind of thing. Like, how do we take time to think? And that's been something which sounds so silly, but it's something I've learned personally about myself over the last year, is like my best creations come when I create space to think uninterrupted. Don't call me, don't text me, don't Slack me, don't email me, leave me alone. And I'm just gonna like be by myself for a few days. And that's been my thing. It just helps me connect dots from what I've consumed. So yeah, staying curious, and I think staying up to date on, depending on your industry, the different publications, etc. And also just creating a space to think so that you can. I think one of the things that we all fall victim to is we just absorb information and just take it as status quo. We just accept it. But I think the greatest thing that we can do is absorb information, ask questions about it, connect dots, hopefully in ways that haven't been connected before, and then talk about what action should be taken. But you have to create that space to think for yourself in order to do something like that.
Oh, I think that makes total sense. Listen, think, and then react. So and probably even respond instead of reacting is a better way to frame that one up. Talk a little bit about your support structure. What type of people and organizations we're building into you and are building into you as you continue to grow your business?
Well, I consider myself quite lucky. I have a very supportive family, so I think I just feel very fortunate for that. But I do have a couple of professional organizations that have always been really helpful for me. Agency Management Institute, run by Drew McClellan, has always been a huge resource to run my business. Locally here in the Milwaukee community, I'm a part of EWL, and which is a part of Tempo, Milwaukee's women's professional organization. They hooked me up with a mentor, Lori Richards, who's the CEO of Miller Communications, which she's amazing and always a guiding light. She's like proverbially, I don't know if that's right, proverbially like held my collar as I've like run towards thought leadership cliffs. And she's like, well, why don't we just hold on, come back. What are you doing over there? And then I'm also part of She Shines, that's run by Stephanie Melnick, locally here as well. But I've also been working with my own coach for the last 18 months, and she's been pivotal in my personal transformation, in better understanding my values and helping to guide my businesses and help live a better life. So yeah, I think personally, I feel quite lucky with my family and a few close friends, but professionally, I've also done a pretty good job of carving out some specific niches. Like AMI is where I go for my agency owners. She Shines is where I go for my other women business owners. So like slightly different markets, but like still tackling things from different perspectives. So I would just say to any entrepreneurs out there, like find your people. Doesn't matter who they are. Whoever you decide are your people, know that there's probably different pockets of them and that they'll all bring different things to the table. And don't be afraid to ask for help. Like, we need help. This is a lonely space. And I would also say, get a coach. I'm totally biased. But my coaches have fundamentally changed my life to the point that I'm in the middle of an 18-month program to become a coach myself. Like, it's just so helpful.
Well, I got to second the idea of getting a coach for sure, and I know I'm totally biased there, but it makes a difference because we cannot do it alone. So
No.
find some resources, find community, find your people. I love the way you put that out there. Let's pivot a little bit and talk about funding and resources. What type of funding and resources have you needed both to start your business and to continue to grow it?
Well, I didn't really have funding to start my business. I more or less bootstrapped things. Um, and in terms of how we kept things alive, we were just really intentional about trying hard not to spend money that we didn't have. We also very intentionally set up payment structures. So we have like a 15-day payment structure with our clients. And then we also ask our contractors to then bill at the end of the month for the work that they did for that month. So in theory, we invoice the first of the month. We have payment from our clients the 15th of the month. When our contractors invoice us at the end of the month, we have all the money to pay them for the work that they've done. That was very intentional from day one. We also got very fortunate with well, I don't know who got fortunate in COVID, but we were eligible for PPP for both rounds, which was a really big thing for us. And another thing that we put into place a few years ago was our partnership with Azonia Bank, and we built a line of credit with them. We try really hard not to tap into it because I'm a bit debt averse personally, but sometimes it's necessary, and it's just nice to know that if those purse strings are being drawn really tight, that doesn't mean that you're going to close the doors, right? It also doesn't mean you have to fund it from your personal bank account. Just knowing that you've got a little bit of a cushion to help weather some storms and put a plan into place so that you can make sure you pay that back. I don't recommend getting yourself into more debt than is absolutely necessary. That's a hard hole to dig yourself out of. But yeah, we didn't necessarily fundraise. We didn't do anything like that. So it's been a lot of bootstrapping.
No, but I think that's good. It sounds like you had prudent cash flow methods to start and just tried to not exceed your means and your capability from the very beginning. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs, you have a vision of where you want to go and you set a budget for that. And if it exceeds your number, usually I tell folks, hey, your number needs to be set where the capability to raise money is at, whether it's personally putting it in or you have other people contributing. Start there, continue to build, continue to pivot, as we've talked about on this show. You can grow it. What you build today is not the last thing you're going to build. So would love to talk a little bit about, how have you persevered? There's been lots of ups and downs. You've added employees, you've changed product offerings, you're launching a second business adjacent to where you're at. How have you persevered in this space?
Recently I've asked a couple of people what words they would use to describe me, just because I think it's always good to get outside feedback. Because I think so often you're so close to, yourself, it's hard to see what maybe other people see. And one word that has come up a lot is resilience. And I think I take that as a great compliment, but I also present it as a challenge to all entrepreneurs. This is hard. Imposter syndrome comes in on a regular basis. And I think it's just finding that sense of resilience. And I think doing the work to know yourself well enough and to believe that you're capable of the things that you want to accomplish, and also building the relationship with your team to believe in them that they are capable of what you think they can accomplish, and then finding resilience. I'm not gonna lie, there have been plenty of days in the last 5 years where I'm like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I should not be doing this. This is not good. Those are the low days. But then there are other days where it's like, this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. This is exactly my life purpose. This is exactly all the things. And it's just, I think, mindset and resiliency, because it's a bumpy ride. It's a bumpy ride. So if you're going to break when you hit a rough patch, like, maybe this isn't your journey.
No, absolutely. I think it's an important key to know. It's not all, going back to the roller coaster analogy, right? It's not all ups. There are plenty of downs, and particularly in the beginning, there's just a lot of struggles. Even if you're still passionate, you
Yeah.
still have that energy, you still have that focus. It just doesn't show up in your lap magically. The overnight success takes 10 years to build, or
Yeah.
more, right?
Right.
So a couple final questions here before we wrap up our interview. If there are three pieces of advice you'd want to give to other entrepreneurs who are maybe a little bit behind where you're at in terms of either time in business or growing in scope and scale, what are some pieces that tie to your industry that you would advise them on?
Yeah. I would say do what you do best and outsource the rest. That's something that I'm still working on myself, but man, it's just become so abundantly clear to me that that is the path forward in so many ways. So do what you do best and outsource the rest. Along those same lines, I would also say simplify. Whatever you're doing, I promise you, you can do it in a simpler way. And when you simplify what you're doing, it not only creates the opportunity for mastery and for you to be the best at the thing that you do, but now you think about like operations and SOPs and biz dev and sales and marketing and everything that it takes to run a company. You're doing that for like one thing now, or two or three things, but you're not doing it for 15 things. So you've already cut down your internal headaches significantly by just streamlining and focusing on, simplifying your processes, simplifying your offerings, whatever that might be. And I'd say the third thing is get a coach. Again, totally not biased on that one. But I've worked with a couple of coaches now, and this is just, it's hard, and nobody understands it except other people who are in this boat. Nobody understands what it feels like to be responsible for someone else's livelihood and to make sure like their kids eat, like nobody gets that. That's a lot. And so work with a coach or your community of whatever kind, and just find a support system that you can be unapologetically 100% yourself in a space that you don't have to show up as the leader, in a space where you don't have to be PC, in a space where you can just 100% say, this is exactly what I'm going through right now, and I need help. So whatever that looks like to you, ask for help.
Awesome. Thanks for those. Final piece. Tell us a little bit, speak to your customer. Like what do you want? How do you want your customers to perceive you? How are you uniquely different when you position yourself in the space that you're in?
We just care. We put people first, and that's how we operate as a business. That's how we operate as humans, and rooting everything that we're doing from Brainchild Studios standpoint in a people first mentality. We really believe people first is the best business strategy. So whether that's understanding your target audience, whether that's understanding your internal team, whether that's understanding the relationship between any of the people involved, like, we just care. And so if you're looking for a long-term and scalable solution versus short-term band-aids, invest in your people, whether that's understanding them from a marketing standpoint or understanding them from an internal team member standpoint. Invest in your people and the dividends will come.
Awesome. Kiley, if people want to get a hold of you, they want to get a hold of Brainchild Studios, they want to get a hold of your coaching business, how do they reach you?
Yeah. You can check us out at brainchildstudios.com. You can check us out at rain9, RAYNEIX.com. And you can follow me on Instagram, LinkedIn, Kiley Peters, Brainchild Studios, and Rain9. And then my email address is Kiley@brainchildstudios.com.
Awesome. Well, hey, we've been having our interview today with Kiley Peters, the founder and CEO of Brainchild Studios. If you haven't figured it out from our interview, she is a powerhouse full of passion and energy, and I love the fact she wants to invest in people. If there's something that you can get out of this session that we had today, if you're willing to invest, you're willing to be humble, and you're willing to stay focused on the people that matter and making people focused, I think you're going to be able to have your business stand out from others that are there. We talked about this is not a process to do alone. I want to encourage everyone to continue coming out and meeting virtually. Wednesdays, 4:30 Central. I continue to host entrepreneur encounters where entrepreneurs can get together and share their stories, share their struggles, ask for accountability, get support, and get encouragement with where they're going, because this is a difficult path to go on, as Kiley highlighted for us. So do go ahead and sign up for that, bit.ly/entrepreneur encounters. That is currently a free opportunity. It's a needed service for people to be able to get together. If you are not finding a way to get together, do consider this opportunity that's out there. Going on that theme of not being able to do it alone, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention sponsors we have that are helping us out. Andrew Feller Photography has done all our photography, both here and on our website. Buckethead Creative handles all of our graphics. Charlie's Music Factory and Chris Crane will do the music on the way out. And Milwaukee Web Designs has helped us get our web presence up and moving forward. Again, I'm Brent Afwasson. I'm an entrepreneur coach, and I really want to help entrepreneurs and business owners grow their profit and accelerate their business. If there's a way I can support you and help you out, do go ahead and either click the QR code there, or again, you can do bit.ly/coach with Brent. I'll give you a 30-minute free discovery session. Let's find out if it makes sense and how I can support you in your business ventures. So with that, thanks again. This has been Entrepreneur Encounters. I'm Brent Afwasson. We appreciate your time today.
Come on.